Ladies and gentlemen, I am very proud and honored to be invited to this very important conference where everyone who works on countering disinformation and foreign interference should be. I remember after learning that I will deal with countering disinformation, one of my first thoughts were, I have to go to Riga to see the NATO people and the Latvian authorities. They know a thing or two about this issue. Clearly, the pandemic has affected my plans, but I believe soon the time will come I will be able to see many of you personally. I want to talk to you today about challenges for democracy. Unfortunately, democracy today is facing many of them, such as the rise of far-right or far-left forces that preach authoritarian solutions, perils stemming from increasing digitalization, the risks to rule of law or media freedom, to name just a few. One common feature that connects many of those challenges is that they undermine trust. In democracy, we trust that authorities are there to serve the people, not to exploit them. We trust that the courts are independent from the politicians or big businesses, and we trust that there are media that report facts rather than fiction. Trust is a bloodstream of modern democracy. Of course, the enemies of democracy know that too. This is why their actions concentrate on destroying that trust. The Czech president Václav Havel said, "The natural disadvantage of democracy is that it is extremely tiring to those who mean it honestly, while it allows almost everything to those who do not take it seriously." And I cannot help but think that increased digitalization made the job of such adversaries a bit easier. Let me explain why I think so and what we can do about this. Today, online media form the main source of information for more and more Europeans. This also has positive sides, as we have access to an ample range of opinions. Freedom of expression can flourish. So, participatory democracy should flourish as a result. Yet, these technologies and platforms can offer tools to bad actors who want to increase divisions or even influence elections, and notably through social media to disseminate disinformation on a scale and with speed and precision of targeting that is unprecedented. Disinformation becomes a scourge of democracy. It erodes that trust in institutions, governments, and the media. It hampers our ability to take informed decisions based on reliable information. The results of the democracy section in our latest Eurobarometer show that 51% of its respondents believe to have been exposed to disinformation. In the context of the current pandemic, disinformation also has a detrimental impact on public health, undermining public confidence in the scientific community. Disinformation is so dangerous because it uses our freedoms against us. It turns freedom of speech into a weapon. And if we want to preserve democracy, freedom of speech is sacrosanct. We also must acknowledge that there are organized structures aimed at manipulating our information space, also foreign actors. The EU takes the threat posed by foreign information manipulation and interference very seriously. We have for many years increased our efforts to tackle this challenge, and I am grateful that our cooperation with NATO is also intensifying and that more and more people and governments start to have a deeper understanding of these risks. In 2015, the East StratCom Task Force took up its important work to tackle pro-Kremlin disinformation. In the past 6 years, we have seen the threat evolve and emerging actors have appeared on the stage. But we clearly see we need to do more, all of us. It is still too cheap and too easy to sow disinformation. The StratCom Center has published a report that highlighted how easy and cheap it is to purchase manipulative services. Additionally, persistent actors like Russia continue to engage in such activity, and not only on social platforms. Let me give you a recent example. The pro-Kremlin media, led by the Russian officials, are spreading multiple contradictory disinformation narratives to obscure the facts about the explosion of a munition depot in the Czech Republic. The Czech government is accused of a smear campaign against Russia, including the Sputnik V vaccine and Rosatom, and of acting on orders of the US. The spokesperson of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has claimed that the statement of Czech government was aimed at distracting attention from an alleged CIA coup in Belarus. So you see, we need to do more. I will start by stating that clearly tougher regulation of the online amplification channels is needed. We tried self-regulation, and that served a purpose, but it is not enough. The tech sector cannot only self-police itself. No other sector does. This is why we proposed more enforceable obligations, high standards of transparency, and increased responsibility of digital players with the Digital Services Act. The Act will also clarify the rules for taking down illegal content and at the same time offer protection for fundamental rights for users online. Then I proposed in December last year the European Democracy Action Plan with a comprehensive policy on countering disinformation, which includes ambitious proposals on how we can strengthen our framework to tackle foreign information manipulation and interference. It highlights the urgency with which we, the EU and our partners, need to address these threats in a coherent and effective manner. This includes a new disinformation pact that we are working on. And of May, the Commission will come forward with a comprehensive guidance that will outline how we see this pact. Once the Digital Services Act is adopted, it will allow for creation of a co-regulatory scheme to ensure transparency, regulatory oversight, and accountability of online platforms. Our guidance will encourage current and future signatories of the Code to strengthen their commitments in order to mitigate the risks linked to the spread of disinformation, and will define a robust monitoring system. The Code of Practice against disinformation will also remain a living instrument, adjustable to technological, market, and legislative developments. But, of course, we cannot rely only on this work with social media platforms. The Commission will also propose legislation on transparency of sponsored content in a political context, political advertising, one of the key vectors for disinformation. We are also aiming to strengthen media freedom and media pluralism. Independent media play a very important role in the fight against disinformation and against the manipulation of the democratic debate by providing citizens with reliable information. This includes measures to improve the safety of journalists and to curb the abusive use of the so-called SLAPs, lawsuits against public participation. Another core element is to develop and strengthen our toolbox to be able to impose costs on the purveyors of disinformation. We are working on this together closely with the High Representative Josep Borrell. And I must emphasize that the Democracy Action Plan focuses on cooperation with partner countries and international organizations to build capacity and engage and exchange best practices in countering electoral threats. since online interference in EU elections can be launched from anywhere, in particular from countries with weaker regulatory and monitoring capacities. It is in our strategic interest to support the efforts of our partners in building resilience to the online challenges and exchange best practices on developing secure digital environment for elections. As a concrete example, we extended the mandate of election observation missions to the observation of online campaigns. These missions now make recommendations on the strengthening of regulatory capacity in this area to ensure that electoral rules are not violated online. Let me assure you, we do not aim to, nor can we, do this in isolation. We believe that a whole of society approach is necessary if we want to have an effective framework in place. We are therefore committed to working with relevant stakeholders on these ideas, including from partner countries, civil society, and private industry. One of our key partners on the institutional level is NATO. Our cooperation has intensified significantly, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. I had a chance to meet NATO Secretary General Stoltenberg and Deputy Joanna to discuss these issues. We face many of the same challenges and have increased both political and day-to-day contacts to respond more effectively to the infodemic and foreign information manipulation and interference. And we have even jointly commissioned a study on strengthening societal resilience against disinformation from the NATO StratCom Center of Excellence. With challenges to the information space being the same for both EU and NATO, and 21 countries being part of both blocs, I am sure that we will do more together in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, our times call for decisive actions to support democratic processes. They call for strong steps to restore people's trust in democracy. I am convinced that these actions will only be effective if we are united, have clear objectives, and strong political will to raise public awareness. To achieve this goal, we must marry policy and communications to work together. Both are an integral part of the necessary response. The infodemic is testing our approach. It has also been a learning experience, and we will build on useful insights in the years to come as we implement the European Democracy Action Plan. I already talked about policy response, so let me conclude on the communication front and looking ahead in practical terms. On the basis of this recent experience, I see three main avenues of work for the now and for the future. The first one is monitoring and detection. The second, proper analysis. And the third, action and response. First, continuous tracking and monitoring of social media and media discourse on issues relevant to democracy in the EU, in coordination with intelligence and cyber teams to see how information spreads. This is a fast-moving area. This is why we should make sure we are all on the same page when it comes to pooling our knowledge on the spread and evolution of disinformation. Working together brings me to my second point on quick, comprehensive analysis on what is out there in the information space. As misleading information grows, we need to be selective in focusing only on potentially harmful narratives and to calibrate our responses. This will require a common language and approach. Finally, with these foundations in place, we can get better at knowing when and how to fight back, which involves targeted, proactive communication. We cannot abandon groups of people that have shown to be more susceptible to disinformation narratives. On the contrary, we have to engage with them to show that there are different stories out there. As you see, the European Democracy Action Plan has a holistic approach to the issue, from strengthening media freedom and pluralism to increasing transparency, improving the existing EU's toolbox for countering foreign interference, overhauling the code of practice on disinformation into a regulatory framework for online platforms, to promoting media literacy in societies. If the approach is comprehensive, the objective is precise: make our democracies in the EU more resilient and restore the trust. We feel that this is an important part in safeguarding our democracies, our societies, and everyone within the EU. And we remain committed to working with partners around the globe who are grappling with the same challenge. With every new case, with every report and exposed disinformation attempt, I think we are becoming more aware and, as a result, less naive. This helps us to build political confidence needed to coin all the research, ideas, and progress done by the civil society and disinformation experts in different institutions. And I know there are many of you here, and I just want to tell you, big thanks for your hard work. This is not going to go unnoticed, and I promise you that on political level, you can count on me to build alliances and step up our response so it matches the significant level of threat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for sharing your perspectives on the challenges and opportunities we're facing, particularly regarding disinformation in this extraordinary time. We have a few questions come in. I'd like to encourage everybody to send in their questions on the keynote and strategy speakers. We have some, but I'd like to take the opportunity to exploit my privilege as moderator to ask one first. I'm aware that we often talk about disinformation as if we were almost fighting another pandemic and tackling it like it's a disease. And I wondered what your perspective on this concept or model of fighting disinformation was. Is it really a disease, or is it something that's more innate to the human condition, such as aging? Is it something we can cure, or is it something that we just need to accept that we have to manage palliatively?
I don't know if I can compare it with the disease, but this is a serious problem which has amplified now in COVID time. And we all know that rumors have always been here. They have always influenced our society. That's why also in my speech, I said that what we are focusing on is the harmful content, the disinformation, which may have potentially serious impact on the society as a whole. And this is what we are focusing on also in the European Democracy Action Plan, where we bring the definition that we are looking at coordinated production of disinformation with the purpose to do harm to our society. So is it a disease? I don't know, but this is inevitably something which is eye-opening and which invites to coordinated reaction on coordinated action. I remember very well the part of the book of Madeleine Albright. The title of the book is Fascism, and I think she published it 2 years ago. And I spoke to her personally. You know, she's a Czech person, so we have a good contact together. And she calls this the possibility to spread this harmful content through internet, that those who want to do harm to the society use millions of amplions. And this is a big change, which we have to pay attention to, that the internet is the main highway which is abused for this very dangerous right by those who want to do harm to the society. So that's why we are taking this comprehensive approach to, if you want to heal this disease, we are looking at the serious symptoms. We are convinced that the time has come to introduce the regulation targeted to those risks we see in digital sphere, but at the same time to do everything to protect the freedom of speech and plurality of opinions, because the freedom of speech is one of our main values in the EU, and we must not sacrifice the freedom of speech in the battle against disinformation. So it's not a trivial work we have.
Absolutely, and I think that maintaining the freedom of speech whilst also being seen to act comprehensively on hate speech or disinformation is a really tricky balance to draw, so I don't envy your work. You mentioned groups that were particularly vulnerable to disinformation, maybe those that are disenfranchised, or they don't have access to social media, or they have a distrust of social media. How do we actually target those people or find ways to reach those people which don't rely on the conventional methodologies that we've become used to in this age of constant connection?
Yeah, this is the big question, because I think that we, and thank you for this question, we are so much focusing on how the system works. And we are looking at the producers of disinformation and the channels, the amplifiers, and not so much as those who are the targets, so which you speak about. And I'm afraid it will be a long distance run to make the society more resilient. And we see that I would not say and simplify that it's just part of the society, for instance, the seniors or I don't know, the people who have a tendency to, how to say, fear or to catch all those messages which are increasing adrenaline. This is the threat for the whole society, and we are all exposed to that, including me, including you. You had the figure from the Eurobarometer. More than half of the people have confirmed that they were targeted. And the tricky thing on disinformation that there is always or usually a little portion of truth, and then a big pile of clear lie, and a big pile of or load of emotions in it. And we are vulnerable from this point of view, because the disinformers know very well how to target us. So the long distance run for us is to make the society more resilient, to invest in digital education, invest in, how to put it, convincing the people that they should not believe everything they read, especially on internet. By the way, I lived half of my life in a communist regime, and my father always told me, please do not believe anything you read in newspaper. And now we say, please do not believe everything you read. And that's why I think our way, or our plan to do more fact-checking, so that the people can have soon available the facts and data delivered to the online space, where they can read and they can make their own choice whether to believe it or not. And as I said also in my speech, we need to be much better in communication ourselves. Well, we are the defenders of democracy. We should not leave the space for the disinformers. We should not be lazy to communicate and explain why we want to keep democracy ongoing. In COVID time, this is the task for the health authorities, to fill in the space with their data and with their reliable information. That's part of our agreement with the big digital companies, with Facebook and others, that they will provide prominent space for the health authorities to use it for proactive communication and delivering the facts and reliable data to the people. So this is everything we are doing should end up in better understanding in our society that disinformation might be dangerous for them, and that they should maybe look around the disinformation for the facts. And I would repeat myself, I will stop here.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Interesting to hear about societal resilience, and I agree, it's something that's the priority aim for all of us who work in this realm. But given that during the pandemic, people have had little opportunity to move outside of the digital world, so to speak, how do we increase the appetite to look for trust amongst the population when they've been isolated with the digital environment for so long? And I think it's actually created some fear of engaging in person.
I don't know whether I would share such view. The truth is that in the pandemic we are trapped. We are isolated. We have smaller chance to put things into the perspective of normal life. This is what makes us, especially in this time, more vulnerable and easier target for the disinformation. And more than that, the disinformation we see now, which is everywhere in Europe, has really the potential to do harm to health. That's why this is exceptional time. There's this potential of disinformation, there's the people being trapped and isolated, and that's why we decided to do much more in this infodemic time against the disinformation which is flooding our households. And I believe that the way forward is, first of all, to get rid of the COVID-19 of the coronavirus, and to come back to normal. It will not be old normal. We will see that the impact of COVID will live with us longer than COVID itself, in many ways, in economics, but also in the heads of people. So the solution is to get out of the pandemic soon, and then to come back to normal regime, and to get again the perspective in also for our reactions on the information we are receiving. What we see now also in several member states, that the readership of professional, I might say traditional media, which are known for high professionalism and for delivering objective facts, is increasing. And this is a good news, not to be so negative. I would call it that we see some signs of, if I can put it like that, for bigger hunger for the truth. That the people realize that if they get manipulated, or if they get stressed by all those conspiracy theories and so on, that it will not help them. And I think that there is now the tendency to seek for more trustworthy information. So it's not black and white.
Absolutely. Maybe it's a British cultural trait that I see rain clouds where there's also sunshine. We've probably got time for one more question. How would you assess the level of awareness and ambition towards dealing with the challenges in the information environment in Europe versus other parts of the world? Specifically, who are our most reliable and relevant partners in this?
I would simplify that it's for us the democratic world, and I am really glad that America is back. We are now starting multiple discussions with our American partners. And as for the digital challenges, well, we are exactly on the same page with the Americans, because no matter that we speak mainly about the American-born companies, they are global companies, speaking about Facebook and Google and others. So we are launching now the debates about privacy, about more protection of fundamental rights, in digital sphere about the actions needed to tackle the issue of illegal content, which is not disinformation, but here I speak about extremism, about terrorism, about child pornography, about hate speech. And we are talking about how to make technology work for people, for individual people, not the other way around. So this is now a new chapter, I hope, which we are starting with the United States. And then, of course, with all other like-minded partners in the world. And we are working a lot with the partners on the data protection field, which is also connected with our freedoms. So, but as I said before, we have to join forces because we are facing global challenges. It's not European specific.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for your time and your insight today. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And can
Pleasure
I say,
and honor. Thank you very much.
Can I say thank you to those who are watching the Keynote speeches live on our YouTube and Facebook channels. The program will continue for our registered participants with a very pertinent and timely strategic conversation on foreign interference between the Deputy Defence Minister of the Czech Republic, Mr. Jan Havranek, and the Director of the StratCom COE, Mr. Janis Sarts. The floor is yours.
Thank you.